The April 24th, 2023 regular Wasilla City Council meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business to attend to during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to all attendees, the meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located directly in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard. Here. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Vlock.
Here.
Councilmember Rubio.
Here.
We do have a quorum, Madam Mayor. All council members are present and with us in council chambers.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Johnson, please lead us.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there changes to the agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
on the agenda is AM number 2315, contract amended to Big Dipper Construction in the amount of $24,579 for the city's fiscal year of 2023 equipment rental with operator contract. While I do not have a conflict of interest to declare, I do want to make the public aware of my relationship with Big Dipper Construction. The company is owned by my father. He is not a member of my household, and I have no financial interest in his company.
All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham.
On the agenda, at the last meeting, I had asked that we get an update from our lobbyist in Juneau. I don't see that on the agenda.
It will be.
Well, I'd asked for it this week. Are we not going to?
He's sitting right there.
Okay, so, thank you.
On the agenda, I would like to move 6.5 under commissions and agency reports up to the very first place. Okay? Yes, and I'm also adding the lobbyist report right under commission and agency reports. So with that, is there objection? Hearing no objection, the agenda stands as amended. We are on to special orders of the day. I'll read the proclamation recognizing Professional Municipal Clerks Week. City of Wasilla proclamation recognizing the 54th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meeting of their state and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, Glenda D. Ledford, Mayor of the City of Wasilla, recognize the week of April 30th through May 6th as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal clerks, Jamie Newman, MMC, Sarah Standifer, MMC, and Benzie Johnson, Administrative Aide to the City Clerk, for the services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the City of Wasilla.
this time. Are you impressed? Come on, smile like you're really having fun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
Speech.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
And thank you to both of you for keeping us all out of trouble. Okay. And now we are on to commission and agency reports. Because the high school has got to go. Do you have a student here? Okay, come on up. Wasilla High School.
They've got another commitment.
Hi, my name is Chase Hagelberger. I am our student body media representative. I am also a senior. So to start, our Lady Warrior basketball team finished second in also state basketball championship to beat Lathrop and Colony and lost a tough battle to the very talented ACS team. The future is bright as we return all 5 starters next season. Robin Lockwood, WHS math teacher, has been named 2023 PAE MST, the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, finalist for the state of Alaska. She is one of the 2 finalists for this prestigious award, and she is the advisor that came with me today. Track, soccer, softball, and baseball are in full swing. All teams have had their first competitions. Our boys and girls track team came in 3rd and 5th, respectively, at their meet this weekend. Deshaun Campbell continues his winning ways as he took first place in the high kick at Houston's NYO competition this past weekend. The MSBSD A team placed second at NYO's state this weekend. Our simulated room was just completed. This room houses our heavy equipment simulators. Students can work through a series of simulations that teach them how to use equipment such as an excavator, backhoe, and a forklift. Our auto program took first place at the UAA Automotive Skills Competition in Anchorage. Students received $500 and $1,000 tuition waivers, plus a brand new Napa toolbox and a 2002 Mercedes convertible for the auto program at Wasilla High School. Finally, Warrior Nation would like to thank Mayor Ledford and City Council members for all your continued service for our community. We'll see you next year.
Thank you. Okay, and now, Chris Knauss, our,
She said her name. I believe she said her name.
She did.
okay. Chris is our lobbyist, so he is here to update us.
Yeah, thank you. I have a few papers I figured to pass out, if that's okay with you. Just pass them around. There you go. Thanks. Give you one more here. Great, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll just start, that's okay?
Yes, absolutely.
My name's Chris Knauss. I'm the managing partner of Confluence Strategies, which is a government affairs lobbying group out of Juneau in Anchorage. And we also do some federal work with our Alaska delegation and other agencies. Just wanted to, one, say hello, but two, the mayor asked for kind of an update on what's going on in Juneau, what's going on federally. And just wanted to give you a little bit of insight based on fiscal scenarios. This was just published today by Legislative Finance. And as some of you know, this all comes down to what the dividend is going to look like. And so that's what we're working on the next 3 weeks. 3 weeks is 21 days from Wednesday is the 120th day of the session. And just kind of looking at what is the size of the PFD, and then actually what does our spring revenue forecast look like. Our current revenue forecast is $72 a barrel, which under the current budget has about a $400 million deficit that the House passed, okay? And that's with what they call a 50-50 permanent fund dividend, 50% government, and then 50% distribution. The discussion in Juneau is that revenue forecast will jump to $80 here in the next couple of weeks, which should help loosen that. But there's 3 fiscal scenarios here, and I just want folks to kind of look at it on page 3. Fiscal scenario 1. This was put together by the House Finance co-chairs here today. This is a $1,500 PFD with no deficit and a $400 million capital budget, a $680 increase to what they call the base student allocation per student. And so you can kind of see that, and that right there, that $680 per student is about $174 million in terms of distribution. The PFD is about $1 billion for a $1,500. And then you see that piece on the bottom where it says plus S Corp. There is a revenue measure that's going around Juneau at this point where S Corp's oil and gas statute actually is separate from other corporate statutes. And this would close S Corps from doing pass-throughs. So where BP, before Hillcorp acquired BP paid a corporate income tax to the state. Hillcorp currently does not. So this would close or change the corporate tax structure where Hillcorp would pay, and not just Hillcorp, it's all Cook Inlet producers. So it's Hillcorp, Fury, and Bluecrest. And they would close that, and that would bring in about $190 million a year, they think, probably more. So looking at that, going to scenario 2 now, this is a $2,000 PFD. Okay, and so what we saw, the surplus on scenario 1 is $56 basically $1 million, and no real surplus. Now we move to scenario 2 with a $2,000 PFD, a smaller capital budget, and a $540 million BSA. Now that has a $129 million deficit, so they're going to have to make that up. And then kind of just moving on, scenario 3, which is your larger PFD, is $2,600 approximately, and you're looking at now your $400 million deficit. Okay, and so this all has real impact on what we're looking for, which is capital in terms of expenditures. And so, one is kind of preceding the other at this point. They have to figure out where they're coming down on the PFD, and then that will tell us where the legislature is going to go in terms of capital budget, and also whether or not they're actually going to take on revenues. And some of those revenues at this point are oil taxes. The governor is expected to drop a statewide sales tax at 2% this week, which a lot of discussion around that. What kind of exemptions for folks like you who've done a great job. What does that mean for other communities that have the sales tax? Seasonal versus year-round. And then, income tax is on the table. And we're also looking at, everything from an internet type of tax to, taxes on education. So, all these discussions are starting. The problem is we have 21 days left in the legislative session come Wednesday. And so, realistically, the fact that we have 17 new members in a 40-member House and 7 new senators, it's most likely going to get pushed off into either special sessions, I assume probably more in the fall, but also discussions of, what do they need to do in order to get a budget enacted before July 1, which is the start of the fiscal year. So that's kind of I don't want to say doom and gloom, but that's the current state of the state in terms of the decisions that need to be made in the coming days. 2, I think the more positive outlook is definitely at the federal side, and I say that because our delegation is very well situated in terms of the committee membership. We have Senator Sullivan on the Commerce Transportation Committee. We have Senator Murkowski on Appropriations and Energy and Natural Resources. We have Representative Peltola now on the Transportation Committee, which is actually the biggest committee in the House with 76 members, which former Congressman Don Young actually chaired. And so, we have our senior senator is openly pushing congressionally directed earmarks since they're still around. And so, what I urge is that we really embrace that and try to maneuver where we're actually gaining those appropriations through the budgetary process in Congress and those appropriation bills. That's a very important piece to a community like Wasilla, who has really done everything right in terms of, when we talk to agencies in the short time I've worked with you all, our projects are shovel ready. We have no debt. I mean, these are rare things in terms of local governments. And I just say that because I think that gives us a foot up when we go meet with federal agencies, whether it's, we go see the EPA, the EDA, transportation, the FAA. They're going to work on an FAA reauthorization bill this year in Congress, Coast Guard reauthorizations, all of those pieces. Even though it says Coast Guard on it, we don't have a lot of Coast Guard here, there could be benefit actually that comes out of that, whether it be, power, transmission lines, transportation access, those types of things I think are really important. The other thing I left on your desk too, I just want to make a notion. And we talked a little bit about the BSA and what that means, and so the Senate has proposed a $1,000 base student allocation increment this year, which is a significant, hundreds of millions of dollars a year commitment to K-12 education. The sheet the one pager I left you shows, and it's about the second to the far right column. It shows you about 39 million in unused funds. The state sees as unused. The school districts argue some of that. They say that some of those dollars are taking a while to receive from the federal government. Some of that is true in terms of COVID funding, but you can kind of see the amount of money that the state is trying to get a handle on in terms of K-12 education. And so I say that because, you're looking at another significant increase that doesn't really go away. It's the state's constitutional obligation to fund K-12 education. So it just kind of puts things into a little more perspective. So we are working not only the state level but also the federal level. We have already a pretty good agenda set for the future in terms of meeting with federal officials, federal agencies that the city really hasn't had those connections with. And I think that I think it's really important that we educate those agencies that don't necessarily have that Alaska type of experience, and two, continue to work with a favorable legislative delegation, a favorable governor, in terms of really making investments that will be long-lasting here. Because what we've seen and what we continue to see when we get a chunk of money is usually we're really good at spending a lot of money and really no significant outcome. Some of you have been around a while to see that in round 2 or 3. And so I say that because I really think that, there needs to be another adjustment. And I think what I would tell the city is, keep your eye on the ball, be consistent, continue to push those projects, whether it's the water sewer, whether it's the airport, those kind of key components, because there is interest and it is growing. It takes an effort to get the education, get the attention, and then get the champions to take those issues on. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Stu?
I have a couple questions. Number one, thank you, Chris, for being here.
Yeah.
I'd like to, if we do this again next year, I'd like to hear from you more frequently so that we know what the status of things are. But number one, in your fiscal scenarios handout that you put out, it doesn't mention the roughly $180 million one-time funding that was talked about. It only talks about BSA. Do any of these scenarios include that one-time funding, or are you looking at only the BSA?
So in terms of one-time funding for education?
Yes.
Yeah, so they are looking at that. And so these were just put together for the BSA. In reality, what's going to happen is the funds, it's going to be a discussion whether or not they put those one-time dollars in side of the BSA, or they actually put into the formula. I think there's more appetite to put in a large chunk of one-time funding and then come back and, they always say restructure the BSA. I think there is more of an appetite than I've seen for a look more at charter schools, alternative type of schools where those are inclusive in the BSA. And I also think that there's more discussion, which might not necessarily be good for the Matsu Valley, the city, if they restructure some of the BSA, because that might adjust in terms of what the Matsu school district actually receives comparative to some of the other parts of the state.
Okay, and then, when you were brought on board,
Yeah.
Basically you were given a list of projects from the city to, I won't say to champion, but to help find legislative champions for and to help move forward. Could you update us on where we are on that list?
Yeah, I think what we did was we kind of looked at a big picture. We got all of our projects in federally. I think we had a long discussion with the mayor, with the deputy city administrator, in terms of, okay, we need to look at this, we need to push this from a state perspective. But if we can't push that from the state's perspective, then we need to make sure that our congressionally directed earmarks are in. And so what we're doing is, we have some fallback components, which I'm not really sure has necessarily happened in terms of what the city's done in the past. I don't know that. But, what we're doing is, we're looking at the fiscal scenarios I just gave you. Those are not, as rosy as I would like them, because if you look at the capital budget size in there, if you look at scenario, I think 3, your capital budget is simply federal match. That's really all it is at this point. And so, nobody's going to win in that battle. And so that's why, we're trying to cover the bases. So, the advocacy is there. We've met with all of the key stakeholders, the governor, the Valley delegation, the co-chairs of the Finance Committee, the Rules Committees, the presiding officers, the Commissioner of Transportation. We're meeting with this next week. And I will tell you this. All the agencies that we met with at the state level have been very positive, because the city is really well positioned, particularly on projects and capital dollars. The shovel-ready component's huge. But looking at the reality of Juneau and what's going on, until they figure this dividend piece out, I don't think there's going to be much of a capital budget. They want to have a significant capital budget. The problem is it might not be this year. It's reality. It could be next year going into an election cycle. That's just that's the unfortunate news. So I think there's much more benefit at this point to go federal with some of our priorities. And we've had very good response, I think, at this point. There's a ton of money, billions of dollars that's set aside federally for water sewer projects coming out of CARES, coming out of IJA, and also with the FAA reauthorization. I just think that there's more avenues there that the city might be able to maneuver and actually secure those funds this year.
And the third and last question, I'm sure the mayor will be happy to know that it's the last question. But, in previous years, we have had issues with the administration or parts of the administration where the Matsu Borough was not looked on favorably, and the city of Wasilla included in that Matsu Borough discussion, where some of our projects were pushed to the back burner or delayed. What are you hearing this year?
It's a good question, right? Because you have now, here's my concern of, I think our standing in Juneau is stronger, it's better. We have majority members in the state house, we have majorities in the Senate majority, we have majority member, and we have a governor that's favorable. Obviously he lives here. But in the same sense, I think that you still have a lot of the problems with twofold. One, the House is a 23-member caucus, Republican-led. You have 4 rural independent and Democrats part of that caucus, okay? The problem with that is it's a non-binding caucus. And as Councilmember Sullivan Leonard knows, the binding caucus really is your hook to keep people from voting for the budget. Right now you don't have that. And so whatever budget comes back over from the state Senate, it is potentially vulnerable if those 4 votes move. And really, if you look at the politics of it, it definitely favors that 4. And the 4 that become very powerful very quickly, since the caucus is non-binding. The Senate is even more of a conundrum because you have a 17-3 supermajority. And all of, our two of our 3 senators from the Matsu Valley aren't even in the minority because they don't have the numbers to qualify as a minority caucus in the uniform rules of the legislature. And so they don't even sit on committees, which is really unfortunate. So I think that, the Senate is a much more challenging piece because you have 1 majority member. He sits on finance. That's a big load to carry. But if the majority can maintain in the state house, I think the Valley could do well. It's just that piece. They need to make sure that they can position and come up with this scenario. And again, just being honest, you have a large portion of the state Senate that wants a 75-25 distribution on the permanent fund, 25% dividend, 75% government. That deals with your deficit issue. You have a large number of the more conservative members or rural members that want the 50-50. And so then you have a deficit mode. So the question is, where is this headed? I mean, philosophically, it's kind of all over the place. If you're running a business, you know how a dividend works. In terms of the government and what the permanent fund dividend is, I think there's a lot of differing opinions on what that should be and what it should look like and how it should be prioritized in terms of paying for government, giving back to the people from the oil wealth. And so I would just tell you, if we can keep the House caucus aligned, I think we'll do very well in the budgetary process, and there'll be dollars in there. I'm worried about the binding component in terms of when the budget comes over from the Senate. That's my concern at this point with 3 weeks left.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Johnson?
Madam Mayor, Chris. So then scenario 1 then, I'm assuming that is a 75% government, 25% PFD. Is that what scenario 1 represents?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other? Colleen?
Thank you. Thanks, Chris, for being here. I've known you for a long, long time.
That's nice to see you.
And really great to have you on board. As in past years, we've always looked to see if there are any key projects that we can kind of get into the queue for the legislative body to consider. I appreciate you bringing some of those larger pieces to the federal side, but can you see anything from our list of projects that might be able to kind of be in the queue to get moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that the legislature, in terms of the Valley priorities at this point, they have prioritized our water sewer component. I think that's their number one. I mean, just so you know, that the Valley Caucus has actually met, and that was what they came up with about a month ago. So I think if there is one thing that will show up in a capital budget, I think it'll be that.
That's fantastic. Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
All right.
Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, guys, thank you.
Okay, and now, McKinley Research Group is going to give us an update on the CEDS.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Donna Logan, and I'm president of McKinley Research Group. And I guess this is actually the second presentation by the research group. Katie Berry was here a couple months ago to kind of talk about the project in general before we got started in earnest. But we are definitely more than started, and making some really great progress. So today I wanted to just present an update of where we are in the process. And the next time we meet, we'll be able to talk a little bit more meat on the bones and share more of the actual the study, the CEDS itself with you. So today I'm hoping to just briefly cover an overview, reminder of what the CEDS process is and the purpose of a CEDS, which is a comprehensive economic development strategy. going to spend a slide talking about the study area, which is something that is different and unique to this work, and I'm excited about the broader study area. Going to walk through, again, just a reminder of the logic and the content of what you'll see in the strategy, and then where we are in our timeline, and finally some next steps in the process. So a comprehensive economic development strategy, it's being led by our firm, McKinley Research Group. I think you've had some introduction to our firm already, so I won't spend a lot of time with that. I work on our Anchorage office. We also have some support from a subcontractor called Huddle. They're providing us with some assistance around the stakeholder engagement component of this work, which in a CEDS process, there's a very large emphasis on stakeholder engagement, public engagement. It's very important to make sure that we're hearing from the public and from businesses and community leaders and such about what their vision is and their desire for economic development in Wasilla. The purpose of the CEDS, it's great to have this presentation right after Chris gave his, because so much of federal funding that can come through to support projects often require a CEDS to be available that really define the economic development objectives and goals of the community. In essence, it provides the, if I can put it this way, the cover for the feds, knowing that this is considered a priority in the community, and it's essential that be included as part of the CEDS. It really is a vehicle for aligning some of those economic development initiatives that you already have underway and things that enhance community development and business development. They kind of go hand in hand between economic development, community development, and business development. Typically, you do these CEDS every 5 years. This is the first time it's been done for the city of Wasilla. So this is really a new plan for the city, and so we're very excited to be part of it. The other thing is that if you decide at some point down the road that you want to become an economic development district, this CEDS process is a prerequisite for that. So recognizing that the city of Wasilla, the funding for this project went to the city of Wasilla. But recognizing when it comes to economic development doesn't know the boundaries of the city very well at all. And so recognizing that part of the building Wasilla as a hub, a business hub, and supporting economic development that's going to benefit the larger area, that we wanted to include in our study area something beyond just the city of Wasilla boundaries. And what we've landed on is what we've called, and I want to be really clear, this is not a political boundary at all. It's really for the purposes of our work. It's something called the Greater Wasilla Economic Area. And it's really as a way to help us define the broader economic development area beyond the city boundaries. So we're collecting data on this wider area as well as the city of Wasilla. And when you think about what went into this wider area, it is any piece of mail that comes into a Wasilla address is defined in the Greater Wasilla Economic Area. We decided, we kind of stopped with thinking that was a good way to think about it. If your address says Wasilla, then you're in the Greater Wasilla area. And it encompasses about 50% or more of the obviously all of the city of Wasilla area, but Kinnick, Fairview, North Lakes, Meadow Lakes, Tenina, South Lakes, and Point McKenzie. So you'll see data presented in a really different way when we put the CEDS together to reflect some of this greater area. So as a reminder, what you'll see in the content of the CEDS, We've been working on a vision statement that I think, I'm hoping everyone will be really pleased to see. But a vision statement really reflecting on where you want to be in 20 years' time or further down the road. It's supposed to be aspirational, and we spent some time wordsmithing on what that vision statement should be looking like, and I'll explain the process for review of that in the next couple slides. So the vision statement is kind of where do you want to go. We had to conduct a SWOT analysis, a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. We did this under several different forums. The biggest one was the very first one where we did the Economic Summit back in November, which was really great. I was so pleased. It was a great enthusiasm, energy, really great involvement. But we've also done a series of executive interviews where we're capturing information from other folks, other businesses on a one-on-one. And there's been several other forums where we've conducted SWOTs as well. It's really the foundation, so much of the CEDS. You have to build the logic of a CEDS is that you are addressing the strengths, you're accentuating your strengths, you're mitigating for your weaknesses, you're addressing the opportunities, what are those opportunities for your area, and recognizing the threats. And so that is really the foundation that you build your strategy around. From there, you see some patterns emerging from the SWOT that leads you to develop your strategic goals. Right now, we're focusing on 4 goals that have emerged from the SWOT. And then from each of those goals, we establish some objectives. Basically, what do we need to do to get there? There's an action plan that we build into the strategic plan that includes things like timeline, who's going to be the lead, who are some of the partners in that objective, and what kind of budget or funding might be needed to be able to carry that out. Additionally, we have an evaluation framework that as a way for the city to monitor your progress of the CEDS and see that you're achieving what you hope to achieve over the 5 years of the CEDS. There's some the other parts of the content is this what we call a situational analysis, where we really think of it as a baseline of where the city is now, and it's really reflecting a lot of data that and going quite deeply into some of data on various aspects of life and doing business in the city. So the document itself will probably be, I don't know, think of it at least 50 pages in length to give you a sense of its size. So where are we in our timeline? We kicked it off with the award and our project kickoff in September, but really we didn't get cranking until October when we started collecting some of our information and starting the engagement. The big kickoff was the Economic Summit that took place in early November, doing our situational analysis and our SWOT analysis, and then really establishing our strategic direction and action plan. We have a committee that was formed to help provide us with some guidance on that, and they've met twice, and we're meeting a third time actually this week, where we'll be able to finalize some things like the vision statement and such. We're working on the plan itself. We anticipate doing a presentation to the council next month. And it needs to get through an adoption process and forwarded to the Economic Development Administration in June. I think we're on track. We're where we said we would be at this point in time. I'm feeling very confident that there won't be any slippage in any of those scheduling. Our next steps is obviously we need to complete our work. Like I said, we have a steering committee meeting on Wednesday where we're going to finalize the vision statement and the plan itself. We are looking to unveil not the whole CEDS, the document itself, but unveil the strategy at basically think of it as a follow-up to the fall economic summit, but at the spring economic summit, where we can have some time with the community to present where we are with the plan, get some feedback, refinement if needed, and then present that to the city council. I presume at your next meeting, we'll make sure that that gets scheduled for that. And then with that, submitting it to the EDA for their approval in June. So I believe that's my last slide. But I'm certainly feeling like we're making some really great progress. We've had really great engagement. The data is coming through. We've had to have some special requests from Department of Labor because of the uniqueness of the study area. And they're being very helpful to us as well. So anyway, that's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any of them at this point in time.
Colleen?
Hi, Donna.
Hi.
Thanks for being here today. As a longtime Wasilla resident, I'm looking at the area that you're looking to study through CEDS, and I guess I have some concerns in the sense that City of Wasilla proper is very different from Meadow Lakes and very different from Point McKenzie. So as you're acquiring the data, how can you differentiate between all the different areas, but then bring that back as a study case for City of Wasilla proper? I mean, we have a tax base, we have police force, we've got certain economic pieces right here in Wasilla that Meadow Lakes doesn't have and others don't have. I'm just...
Yeah, so we won't get into all the details of what we're really looking for at that bigger level is the population, to be able to understand what the impact would be for economic development of the broader population, those kinds of things. But when it comes to the City of Wasilla and capturing your specific tax revenue and things like that, that will be done at the city level. But it's just recognizing that if we did it just for the City of Wasilla, we would really be kind of doing a disservice to the fact that the City of Wasilla is a relatively small geographic area, and there's so much economic activity that comes through Wasilla, if you think of it that way. And so wanted to be able to capture that. So I'm hoping you'll feel that when you see the data, the way it's presented, and where it's not just always at the greater Wasilla economic area, there will be data presented at the city level as well. It's just that it would be limited if we did it just at the city level.
And follow up, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Was that particularly advantageous then to do the CEDS based on the population specific? Is that kind of what you're looking at as opposed to like Wasilla being at, what, 9,000, 10,000 for population?
Yeah, I mean, the population in Wasilla is relatively small to the greater area, and your business community as well. You have some business community that's outside of the City of Wasilla area that could be impacted through some of the work that's being done in Wasilla.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I'm just going to opine here, but you can ask several people if they live in the City of Wasilla proper, and some know, some don't. So I understand what you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Donna, for being here. So sometime in May, you're going to bring the CEDS forward to the City Council, and you're going to look for us to approve it, to acknowledge it. What specific action are you looking for from the City Council? And secondly, seeing as the geographic area of the City of Wasilla is less than 20% of the study area, is the borough going to go through a similar process and approve or acknowledge or whatever this says?
So to answer your last question first, the answer is no, it won't go through a process with the borough. It's really just as a study. It's just for a study area. It's not binding the borough to anything. However, I will add this: the borough has been quite engaged in this process. On our committee, we've got Mike Brown has been involved and been very supportive of a lot of the work that's being brought forward in the CEDS. So I think it's been a really wonderful relationship. I can add that. Your first question, I'm sorry, was
Was what specifically are you looking for from the
Yes,
council?
so it's really presenting it and accepting it as your CEDS. So there will be an approval process, an acceptance process.
So no input, just acknowledging that we've got this 50-page document.
Well, there can be discussion of that for sure. Obviously, it can be contingent on that, and I'll leave that to Crystal and how she wants to manage that.
Thank you.
Or the mayor, I should say, really, the mayor. I'm just working with Crystal as my project manager.
Any other questions? Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we will move on to the Airport Advisory Commission. Eric.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did not have an April meeting because we didn't have any business that brought us together. We postponed to the next meeting in May because we should be hearing from HDL, our airport master planning consultants. They've been interviewing people as well for the airport master plan, and so they need a little bit more time to digest and organize the results, and we'll talk about that Thursday in May.
Okay, thank you.
Is the commission full?
Yeah.
Are all the seats filled?
Yes, all of the commissions in the city have full seats.
Thank you.
Planning Commission, Deputy Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Planning Commission met and approved additional 6,000 square foot for an addition over at the Walmart facility. That's for their online pickup service that they're seeing great success in. Also, at this next Planning Commission, we'll have a review of a 9,000 square foot restaurant that they'll be building here in the city. There's also quite a bit of, we're looking at our mobile food vendor regulation, short-term rentals, and dog kennels. So those are all things that they will take up at the next Planning Commission, which would be in May.
Okay, thank you. And now, if you will continue on with the Wasilla Landscape Standards Review Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. We are happy to report their last meeting was Monday, so a week ago. And so the final revisions were made, and that will be coming to you in the near future for approval. There were quite a few changes, lots of engagement, and I think you'll be pleased with the update that they give you to move it forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public participation. There's one ordinance scheduled for public hearing this evening. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance serial number 2313, amending the fiscal year 2023 budget by appropriating $80,000 for Alaska Remote Seller Sales Tax Commission fees with an equal offsetting increase to sales tax revenue.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 23-13 is open. Anyone who would like to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no one, I will close public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 23-13?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve 2313.
Is there a second?
Graham, second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Councilmember Graham to adopt ordinance serial number 2313. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Many of you may remember that this particular ordinance is talking about sales tax collection from sellers outside the city. Basically people selling things inside the city that have a physical presence elsewhere. As a result of the Wayfair decision at the United States Supreme Court. And there was considerable discussion at this table about whether or not this was a good idea or not. I mean, should we collect sales tax in the city for stuff that's sold outside the city and so on and so forth? And, I think the final vote was, 4-2 or 5-1, something like that, that we adopt this policy of taxing things that are bought from outside sellers and go from there. And this particular ordinance basically is saying that because that policy that we adopted is so successful, We're collecting much more, we're getting much more funding than we anticipated, and it's just costing us a little bit more to do that. So essentially what we're doing here, we're not costing the city any money, we're just recognizing the fact that the program is successful, and to remain successful, it needs this additional funding. So there's no cost to the city of this. Pretty much we're just moving money around, and I'm certainly glad to see that Joan and her crew are staying more than busy collecting sales tax. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Johnson?
Madam Mayor, in support of this, I believe in the past there was a feeling within the council that this was adding in some ways an additional tax. And I just want to say, no, this is just actually collecting the existing approved tax, which really the city would be due if the sale was to actually take place within the city itself, just because the delivery point is a FedEx or a UPS truck rather than a box store or whatever. This is not, I hope people do not realize that this is a new tax as such. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please take a roll call vote on the motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Yes?
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Vlock.
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio.
Yes.
The motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2313 passes unanimously with Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, Graham, Johnson, Brown, Vlock, and Rubio in support.
We are moving on to persons to be heard. It's a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. And the first one is Mr. Stearns. Please state your first and last name.
My name is Tom Stearns. I'm the Senior Ambassador for the Wasilla Area Seniors Incorporated. We would like to thank the mayor for being part of our volunteer appreciation brunch that we had on Saturday. The organization recognized all us volunteers, and the mayor was there, and she even gave us a little pin that says above and beyond. And so we appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Mayor Ledford. Okay, what's coming up? The Miles for Meals. As you have little handouts out there, our Miles for Meals fun run, walk, or roll is scheduled for the 24th of June. You can do it virtually from the 1st through the 24th, doing the same thing, run, walk, or roll. We do not have a route yet because of what's going on in the KGB, so to be announced later. And then you can come to our Club 50 and get ready for that by working out. And we have all the things that you need, exercise classes, weights, treadmills, bikes. Come and join all the fun. And then starting on the 6th of May, going all the way through the 19th, is our annual Miles for Meals auction. We have some great items. Remember that each item that sells means meals for seniors, and that's really important. So whatever you're buying helps seniors. There's a sneak peek of the auction on our website at wasillaseniors.com. But here's a few of them. There's an Alaska wildlife adventure, some Evangelos, the Wasilla physical therapy, Curbside 49 dinner for two, Chulitna Gorge tour, and Red Robin gift certificates. And that's just the ones that are up there now. There's a whole ton of them. I've seen all the stuff. And they don't have them all pictures up yet, but they're getting there. And then this Saturday, we are having a spring cleaning indoor yard sale at Wassy in our dining room from 9 to 4. There'll be vendors out there, vendors from Wasilla that are repurposing some of their stuff, and they would like you to come and purchase some of their repurposed stuff. And so 9 to 4. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Jeannie?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Jeannie Trushinsky, President of Friends of Wasilla Library. I'm going to try to talk really fast. I got a lot of stuff. The usage has been crazy since, as we know, the Palmer Library incident. In the month of March, we circulated over 27,000 items, which is like a record since we've been in the new library. So just imagine somebody had to take those through the person to check them out and put them back on the shelf. So it's pretty crazy. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we get totes from around the library network. So there's 7 libraries in the network in the valley. And the totes are gone through. They're books that people have requested to check out at the Wasilla Library through the other libraries. We also send out 7 totes to all the other libraries. It's been pretty crazy again since the Palmer Library incident, because when that first happened, we had to store all the books, and every library throughout the network was storing the books for Palmer. Now the books are being taken to Palmer, and part of their temporary situation is they've rented a 2,000 square foot area that they're going to store all the books in, because the good news, I mean, there's lots of good news of this weird event, was that a lot of the books were checked out, so those books are saved and will be able to be used in the future. But the bad news is, they have to wait somewhere until there's a way to check them back out again through the Palmer Library. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes at the library that you can't imagine. One of the things is the requests that we get. So we get books that are on hold that people can just go online and say, I'd like to check out this book. We had 150 hold requests in one day this last week. So that's 150 books. Somebody has to go to the shelves, get ready, put the person's little tag in, and then be ready to check out to them when they come in. So, I mean, we're busy, but hey, it's an economic development night. That means every time those people from Palmer come over to here to use our library, they're getting a little more money. Which brings me to a story of these 2 grandmas that were arguing one night a couple weeks ago at an event that I was at. One of them was, you know, they got to kind of do the one-upmanship on the grandma stuff. I take my baby to the baby lap sit at the Wasilla Library. And the other grandma said, what? What's a baby lap sit? I need to get my baby grandchild there. And it is a wildly popular program. I mean, I've sat in the lobby sometimes when these folks are bringing in their babies, and there's moms, there's dads, there's grandparents, and they just hold their baby while the librarian reads the book. It's really marvelous. Again, last week, we have a varying degrees of story time. We had 91 toddlers again at the toddler time. That's a lot of people. Renee Togemeyer, the Friends of Wasilla Library, has paid for her to come here. She's going to be in Anchorage one day. She'll be here on May 20th at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be at Wasilla Public Library. She is this wildly popular children's author, illustrator. Okay, I'm going to go over time here for just a little bit. You know, in our old days, like for us old people, over like 50, I think, we would call this a comic book. Today, it's called a graphic novel, because that makes it sound so much more official. It just means that there's pictures and words, but the kids love these books. And I have a flyer that I'll leave with Jamie for you. Kids, adults are super excited that are familiar with her work, and I won't tell you any of her stories, but she writes about things that kids really relate to. And finally, our story walk for May is going to be bilingual. It's called The Spanish Tortilla, and it's in both English and Spanish, and it's about a lady that keeps trying to go get eggs to put in her tortilla and getting distracted and buying other things that look so much more interesting. It's really fun. So we're busy, but it's all good busy. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Jeannie?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Story time, that is up on the website, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, Mary Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor Ledford, council members. My name is Mary Kay Robinson, aka Randy Robinson, city resident and also part-time on-call City of Wasilla Library employee. First of all, I want to wish you all happy National Library Week. Yay! All 5 days is celebrating the library throughout our great nation. I'm gonna hop and dance a little bit. I know you've missed seeing me. I haven't been here in quite a while. But I also want to comment that I had an opportunity to go to the recycling center benefit yesterday at the Glen Massey Theater. It was amazing. VCRS has been in operation now in the Valley for 25 years, and that's pretty amazing that it started for 4 times a year at what was the old Walmart, then evolved into the Sears lot. And they would have shipping containers that were donated by the different shipping companies. And so it's pretty amazing that now that they're a full-time operation 6 days a week for recycling in the Valley. So I hope everyone takes advantage of that. Saves you money at the landfill. Then the other thing I wanted to mention, last time I appeared before you, we were talking about pass-through grants and things like that, and I said I was going to do some research on community foundations, so I am still researching that. I don't have anything concrete to present to you, but I hope to, I'm not going to adhere to a timeline, but in a few months I should be able to come back and present some information to you about a community foundation for Wasilla so that we can reach out and help, like say, for instance, WASI and My House and some of the other very deserving organizations. So thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Randy. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the council at this time?
All right.
Please state your name.
Yes, my name is Kevin Baker, and I got an interesting point here. On July 15, 1923, President Warren Harding drove the Golden Spike at Nenana. That's 2 months from now is 100 years, so we have a 100-year anniversary for the Golden Spike. What's interesting is he's the only president that's been to Wasilla, and that's 100 years ago. And so I just thought I'd make that point, meaning that it'd be interesting to have a parade for the Golden Spike, or Golden Spike parade, float in a parade. Thanks.
I know Nenana is, they are planning a big celebration.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but
yes.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else? Hearing none, we are on to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the items for approval under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a lengthy consent agenda this evening. We have the regular meeting minutes of April 10th, 2023 for approval, introductions, recommended public hearing date May 8th, 2023, 2 ordinances, ordinance serial number 2314, amending the fiscal year 2023 budget by appropriating $40,621 within the vehicle fund, Wasilla Police Department Patrol Division, for the purchase of a 2022 police package Chevrolet Tahoe. Ordinance serial number 2315, amending the fiscal year 2023 budget by appropriating funds in the amount of $126,000 from the general fund, airport fund, sewer fund, and water fund balances to cover budget shortfalls for the Public Works Department. 3 resolutions up for approval. The first is resolution serial number 2312, increasing the rate of compensation for an administrative and hearing officer pursuant to Wasilla Municipal Code section 276030. Resolution serial number 2313, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Concession Solutions LLC for lease space in the Curtis D. Menard Memorial Sports Center in the amount of $5,400 for 12 months, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Resolution serial number 2314, authorizing the transfer of a portion of the city water utility service area to Eagle Utilities. 4 action memorandums up for approval. The first is AM number 2312, contract award to Central Square Technologies LLC in the amount of $53,040 for CAD E911 system upgrades. AM number 2313, contract award to APSCO APSCO LLC in the amount of $49,878 for the purchase of a wastewater treatment pump. AM number 2314, contract award to Huber Technologies Incorporated in the amount of $186,000 for replacement controls and strain press for the existing wastewater treatment plant. AM number 2315, contract amendment to Big Dipper Construction in the amount of $24,579 for the city's fiscal year 2023 equipment rental with operator contract. And I would love to know what a strain press is. I'll have to ask Eric about that later.
You don't want to know.
Okay. Anyway, those are your items for approval under our consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Councilman Brown, move to approve items 1 through 4.
Is there a second?
Second by Councilman Johnson.
It's been moved by Councilmember Brown and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. There are no items under unfinished business or new business. We are on to communications. Madam Clerk, please read the titles of items under communication.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have an IM number 2309, informing the City Council that administration will travel to Washington, D.C. for the purpose of providing in-person public comment and testimony in support of securing Federal Aviation Administration funds for the continued development of the City of Wasilla Airport, and that's the Wasilla Municipal Airport. We have 2 sets of commission meeting minutes, Wasilla Landscape Standards Review Committee minutes, April 3rd, 2023, and Planning Commission meeting minutes, April 11, 2023.
Thank you, ma'am. We are now at audience comments, a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Is there anyone present who would like to address the city council? If so, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Seeing no one, we will close audience comments and bring it back to Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to the council. In your clerk report this evening, just want to make sure everybody's aware you have your budget meeting scheduled. So you have the save the dates for all those. Budget will be introduced on, May 8th, and then we'll continue on into budget meetings. I did want to make the council aware, I know my office is in charge of the records for the Wasilla Aurora Cemetery, so recently we sold a columbarium niche, a niche in our columbarium. I just wanted council administration to be aware we have 5 remaining niches available for sale, and then that will be it on those. To my knowledge, there are no current plans to purchase another columbarium. And then, of course, all of our cemetery lots are currently sold. On occasion, we have families that no longer live in the area, so they will sell their lots back to the city. We maintain a wait list, and then we call people on that wait list to let them know that there is a cemetery lot available for purchase. Cleanup days, May 1st through 6th. There's information on the City of Wasilla's website, where to pick up trash bags, and then what to do with those trash bags. I did let council know, I know you're interested a lot of times in attending high school graduations, so you have dates of those upcoming, Wasilla High School and Rochelle. And the city attorney and I are working on getting that joint meeting with the Planning Commission scheduled. And I'm thinking, based on our budget meeting schedule, likely that meeting's not going to occur until June. So that's all I have. Next regular meeting, May 8th.
Okay. Madam Attorney.
No comment, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Caught me off guard. I have no comments this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple things. Follow up from the last meeting with finance. You were going to look into that $141,000. Could you fill us in on that?
Sure. So there was actually 2 capital projects related to the museum. One was kind of more routine improvements, landscaping, and paving of the alleyway in that area. And then there was another, the town site restoration, which has had CIP budget for the last several years of about $30,000. That also was for pavilion and a restroom construction. So as for the status of that, I'm not sure of the project, but that is what the funds were intended for.
Okay, and that's, the intent is to expend those by the end of the fiscal year? That was my understanding from looking through the budget.
So they are CIP projects?
Right.
So they do have
Yeah,
a
5 years,
rolling,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, I appreciate that, Joan. Glad to hear about that. And then, Chief, at the next meeting, we're gonna be talking about 2314, which is buying another Tahoe. I would like to see at that meeting, I'd like to see a pretty thorough examination of the difference between the Tahoe and the Explorer and why we're going for the more expensive to purchase and expensive to operate Tahoe. So if you could,
I can actually answer for that right now for you if you
if you could bring that to the next meeting,
Sure.
That would be good, and I'd like to see it in writing so we can have a chance to take a look at that and see what's going on there. And then for Madam Clerk, you mentioned the cemetery there, and we're running out of columbarium spaces. We do have plenty of space up there for a columbarium. Who decides? I know you manage the cemetery, but you don't. I think Public Works kind of owns the cemetery, or are you in negotiations to be able to continue to have residents be able to use that?
I would defer
additional
to
columbarium?
administration for any of those capital type improvements.
So we are working on a CIP for the upcoming budget cycle to add more opportunities for use of the cemetery. We've identified an access road that we think we could realign and make, maybe not another space for a columbarium, but more burial spaces. We've identified the possibility of up to 30 spots. If it's the will of the council that we fund another columbarium, we can do that as well. That's typically through the CIP process. So we'd be looking for feedback from the council if that's something that we want to do. I don't personally know where we put one at this point. I can do more research on a good spot if that's the will of the council, but we are actively working on a project that would give us a little bit more, a few more burial locations.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up, I haven't been on the council forever, but I can remember approving the funding for the last columbarium that we bought, and it now appears that it's, 80-some-odd% full. So looking forward to the future, I think, maybe we need to look at a long-range plan for the Wasilla Cemetery and figure out, when are we going to say it's full and we're not going to do it anymore. But obviously we need to maintain it. But it would be nice to have a little more cognizant plan going forward. So I appreciate you looking at that.
Through the chair to Councilmember Graham, I believe currently in code, per code, the plan was really just to develop what we have and not move forward. So that's actually codified, not to expand.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we can't expand a few lots. I think that's a great idea, or maybe another columbarium, but we were not intending to really get into the cemetery business.
Well, we're already in the cemetery business, so.
Further expand our cemetery business per code.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for those answers. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson.
No comments, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Rubio.
No comments.
Councilmember Bealock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and other than that, no comments.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not business for the city, but it's a year away, but the Arctic Winter Games are coming to the Matsu Valley, and looking for approximately 2,000 volunteers to help supervise and manage and make way safe for 2,000 young kids who will be here during that time. So if you have some time, the second week of March 2024, and you want to work with kids and keep them safe and make it an experience for the Valley, go on the website and contact the Arctic Winter Games, Matsu Valley Arctic Winter Games 24, if you wish to volunteer and help out there. Thank you.
And back to me, we are The administration is going to DC because FAA's got a pot of money and we want our share. So, we continue to work on a lot of things. As if you were at Chamber and seen and heard the State of the City address, it told a lot of stuff that we're doing that people had no idea about. Because it's hard to see when you're working on getting money to upgrade the sewer. Because there ain't many of us down there visiting the sewer. But.
Clerk has to go.
Is that what?
Oh, are you down there, Stu?
No, I said she wants to go take a look at that strain press.
But, Lisa Mikowski gave us $5.7 million to start on that sewer project. So we continue to beat the drum for more money. We're growing. And help us, we've grown. Nobody could have ever predicted how fast we have grown. So now we're playing catch up. But this weekend, Saturday, I was at the Daughters of the American Revolution. And I thought when I went, well, they won't be 10 people here. Well, the bottom thing of Evangelos was full. I had no idea. And then went to Wasilla because they had volunteer appreciation and whatever. And I got to talk about my favorite person, Carlene Sanders. She was 105 when she passed. But she was all about Wasilla, let me tell you. She would sell raffle tickets and she would demand you buy, not just one, but ever how many she wanted you to buy, that's what you bought, So, and then Sunday, I was over at King's Chapel. They had they cut the ribbon on the church. And I was there at 11 o'clock, and it's huge, and it was full. So, anyway, that's my deal. And with no further business at hand, I'm adjourning the meeting unless objection is raised. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 7:17 p.m. Thank you guys for coming.